Hey everyone. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started, and we are going to show you how to project where in this example I'll be taking this cube, talking about the UVs and the shaders and some nuances about that stuff and some technical questions, and then I'm going to go forward and get you all the way to Arnold shaders, Arnold lights, and then we're going to render it. I'll show you how to connect up some of those textures to the shader using Photoshop to create them. And for you, if you're doing this for the assignment, you're going to need to follow the instructions and paint the texture maps to match what the assignment is. So just like we always do, we always come into Maya and we always start with creating a new project window. I've already created the project here. If you haven't yet, click new, select for it, and click accept. And then we're going to go over and double make sure that it is connected by setting the project and say texture cube. And you can make a new scene if you need to, new scene. And then I've gone to create polygon primitives cube. I have this cube. Now, if you're working on a laptop, you are going to want to use this like split screen window, just like this, where it's the 2-panel window. And that way you can work on a single screen operation. I here do have a screen to my left and a screen to my right, where I'm running on a 3-screen operation. So at home, I do highly recommend having multiple screens. Workflow, because you can keep full screen of Maya here and then your UV map window, or what's easier to work. However, we're going to do this on one screen here. So you can do the split screen here and say panels, and go over to panel. We're going to say UV editor. Now I can see the UVs from the cube, and we've gone through in the class how to manipulate this, but just as a quick overview, you can right click and you already know object mode, edge mode, vertex mode, and face mode, but you also now have UV, UV shell, and UVs. So UV shell, we have one UV shell. It's one solid piece. If we were to cut this edge here, if I selected this edge and I went cut and sew and I selected cut, now you don't have to do this, I'm just showing you. You can now go to UV shell, and now we have one UV shell I can select and this other UV shell I can select. I'm gonna undo that just so we can show you a little bit more about how shells work. You'll also notice that when I select this, I've got this outside border edge. And if I go to edge mode and I select this outside edge, you'll see it's a thicker edge than this one. This edge is thinner. This is called a border edge. And you can see them in 3D space. You can see this white edge. It's a nice thick line versus the thin blue line. It shows where your border edges are. And if you wanted to practice, like we're looking at the model here, if I selected this face, I can see this is the front of the cube. This is the top of the cube. This is the back of the cube. So I know the one with zeros on it and the one V on it, right? And I can kind of look around. I can see how this is unfolded. So in order to get a texture onto this, the first thing we're going to want to do is go to the hypershade. So I'll say, so I had mine docked over here on the side, so that way I can click and fold it away up. And then if you don't have that and yours comes up as a floating window, you can grab the floating window. Crashed Maya. Super exciting. Doing cubes. Just in case y'all were wondering, it happens to everybody. Yeah. I could stop the recording, but I'm not going to at this point because this would be the third time that I've had this. See all my crazy items on my desktop. I'll go back and post and blur this out or delete the video after my here, and all these different like projects I've been working on. Let's say new. Saying is you can click on this white bar and you can dock the hypershade by just there, and then you can click the tab and got this cube here. Go ahead and show off the cube a little better. So I will nice ground, and I want to skip it so that I can't see the horizon line. Back over here to my hypershade, and I'm going to create some Arnold shader. AI standard surface. Ground. M underscore ground. And then I'm going to need a second. M underscore cube. And I want to assign a new shader to the color, and I will use this snapshot. It's going to cube UV. I'll make it a 2K image. I click apply. Oh, the project is not set. Project texture cube set. Oh, it's defaulting to a previous project I had manually forced everything to. So I'm gonna go this path that it's got in there sometimes, and a cube UV save. So if you ever need to manually do that, that's how you do it. Click apply. I can see stop and navigate to it. Here I'm navigating to my texture cube folder. There, and I can see like what it looks like. I just filled this with black. Make a new layer, and this is going to be my color layer, and I'm going to use my paintbrush. Slightly yellowed white. I know that this is coloring that. The challenge is that I painted my color on top of my line. So if I put my line at the top layer, I'll be able to see it. And then I can switch back over and make a new layer. And I'm going to put the dots on the dice. So we're going to go ahead and And you're going to paint your own textures for what you're doing for your project. How to do the texture painting process. So all we would do here is we want to turn the lines layer off so we don't get those lines in our final save. Source images folder. I'm going to call it cube color. Change it to that image and minimize here, come back up, and I will raise this moment so I can see the edges, and then I'm going to go back to my hypershade, click on cube, mapping button. For that, I'll get this pop-up window. We're going to select file, and what's happening here is actually getting, so I click the shader, I can click the in and out button right here. This shows just the input channels. This is in and out, and this is just the out. We want to see in and out, and I'm going to try and make this a little see. Shade out. See that I've now mapped using that button this file node. It has a placement 2D texture and the actual file source. It's just showing they're connected, and it's going to take the color channels, which are both R, G, and B, right? And then A is alpha. It's going to take the out color and send it to the base color shader, and it automatically connects it by just clicking that, or clicking the here, clicking this guy, and then selecting file. So now I can select the file node, or this should automatically pop up right after you make it. You're going to click this folder, and you're going to navigate to that file. So I'm in Texture Cube, and I see source images, and I don't see it. It tells me something's wrong. I need to go back over to my folder structure. I go back over to projects, Texture Cube, source images. I don't see it. That tells me something. It is. Save it. Copy. Cube color. Might have like skipped past it or did some. Images, cube color, save. I have this pop-up window that says, "Are you sure?" That's what I missed last time. I say okay. I minimize it. There it is. I open, and it'll be connected. Once I've got it connected, I'm done on the hypershade. I can't see it in here because I'm not looking at textured format. If I click this little checkerboard sphere on the perspective window, I can see the texture maps applied. So the last thing I need to do is set my render settings and put some lights in here. So I'm going to go to Arnold, lights, physical sky, and then render settings, which is right here. Settings, and I just want to make sure it's set to Arnold renderer. I set my presets to HD 1080 and make sure my default settings are 32222. Great. Close that, click the render button. It's rendering off screen right now. It should take about 60 seconds in my previous experience. So we're going to give that a moment. If I had more time to produce these videos for you guys, I would be able to crop or speed up at this moment. So bear with me. Feel free to skip forward about 20 more seconds. It's about % there. There you go. And now you can see my render. Now, I should go back and reposition my camera and make up for a better layout and composition of this image. But you now know what it takes in order to get your texture maps onto your cube, position it in the scene, set the lights, set the rendering, and know that on my computer, which is a pretty good one, this took 41 seconds. So later in the class, we'll try and talk about some optimizations that we can get these render times down, but this is where we are. All right. If you need to save it out, you're going to see File, Save Image. It's going to be some options. Make sure you click Color Managed. If your image looks dark, that's because you forgot to click Colored Managed, and you would have a raw image you need to edit the exposure on in Photoshop. And then you can change your file format here to JPEG or PNG on whatever the class. Save it out. All right, thank you guys for your patience. Have a good one.